This is my bed.
This is my bed.
Do you know that your thatch roof is only 96% effective at the moment? How effective are you?
Oh, you son of a...
They're ringing a bell.
Are you stealing things?
No.
Why'd you answer like that? What the are you doing?
No
I
reason.
have to look at my... Let me tell you a story of two men who rarely agreed on anything, tasked with starting a settlement that could rival even the largest villages in the area. Neither was very bright and had a history of arguing about anything, no matter how small or meaningless. If they disagreed, it would always end in conflict. Despite this, a local mayor foolishly decided that these two men were the ones to complete this task. These two men were Joe, say hello Joe, and myself, Chris, who's not pictured here. Oh, why thank you, Joe. What do you say we get this story started? Our adventure began, as most do, with light spirits and a half-naked jog through the woods to the local swimming hole. We found loot in a barrel, as well as some much-needed straw, and we were discussing what we should do next when, suddenly... Oh shit, grab what you can and let's roll. There's Baloo! Walking, you're like, looking at him, see him walking across?
Oh, yep, I see him.
He's walking towards camp. Quick, he's gonna try to head us off.
No, go faster than Baloo, just faster than a you.
That's not fair. That's my line. With friends like these, am I right? We sprinted home, not slowing until the tunnel vision hit. The next day, we set to setting up our camp. We gathered stone. We chopped trees. We gathered even more stone. We dug up stumps. All just to get the basic necessities to get our village to function. Seriously, so many trees. And even when we had everything we needed, our tools would break. Wasn't all bad though. Occasionally we would try to hit each other with trees. Very efficient. Use a whole tree to make a shovel.
Right?
The next day, we said our morning greetings. I gave you the shittier hat. Then set out on the day's tasks. While Joe stayed at the camp to rest, I set out to find 3 things: another supply of straw, fertilizer for the farm, and our very first villager. I found the straw in a neighboring village, so I spent a ton of time collecting as much as I could carry. Unable to find a usable bed in town, and unwilling to travel in the dark, I sat by the fire until morning. When the sun came up, I made some space to grab a little extra straw and headed towards my second task. I managed to do a little hunting while I was out. Scored myself some boar. It was nightfall again by the time I reached Piastovia, our sponsor village, you could call it. The mayor of this town was the one who hired us to build an allied settlement to help Piastovia in the rivalry between the other villages in the region. Once I arrived, I interviewed the available settlers to find out what they might be able to bring to our camp and what their weaknesses might be. In the end, we decided on Rixa for her hunting abilities, as it was a good first pick for our camp. Nightshade.
I can't.
I mean, what? Alright. Let me drop.
Oh, you found some of the berries for your tea?
Yeah, I figured those were the berries you've been grabbing. I have a lot of them for your tea myself. After a quick rendezvous with Joe, I began heading back home. I hadn't seen my bed in over 2 days. Once home, I quickly set about making sure we had supplies to keep our new neighbor happy and safe. Although it was about then that I realized I had forgotten something while I was away. The fertilizer. On my way back to the villages to find someone who could sell it to us, I managed to learn to fish with my bow. I arrived in the village with a name I can't pronounce, I'll just call it Straw Village, and spoke to the merchants in town. Unfortunately, the closest I got was manure, and we didn't possess the ability to refine it into fertilizer yet. While I was there, I decided to try to help out around town, raising awareness and the reputation of our budding community. I met up with Wojciech? who needed help with his annoying neighbor trying to copy his style a little too closely, which led me to Nicebor, who insisted it isn't that similar and that I should go see it for myself. Okay, Nasalbor, I'll play your damn memory game. This led to almost 20 minutes of running back and forth from house to house, desperately trying to remember everything. I was positive that the red pots were important, but they both seemed exactly the same, so finding 5 different things was proving difficult. You know, I used to be good at these kind of memory games. But as you get older, and you stop, practicing, things stop working. This is a good time for everybody to go and do a puzzle. Work your brain. Gotta keep it healthy. If you don't work it, it'll just smooth over. You'll just have a big old egg for a brain. Anyway, I digress. Believe me, this is every bit as tedious as it looks. I should have drawn a picture or something to try to remember the things or written a list down, I don't know. Either way, it was a pain for sure. It wasn't until after I failed my first try that I took a closer look at the red pots and realized they had slightly different leaves in them. Of course, it's fall. No flowers would be visible. With this new information, I went back and did a few more laps, and eventually, I finally found 5 differences. And you know what? Didn't make a difference. Worcestershire, whatever, still wasn't having this copycat steal his life. So I gave little Nasalbor a little pep talk about how not to creep people out, even when you admire them, and extracted myself from this situation entirely. But on the way out, I managed to get our second person to join the cause. Seems like a good sort and has a proficiency in farming, so that's good. Anyway, where was I? Right, fall. Right. I did finally find the fertilizer we were looking for in the next town, allowing our camp to finally become a farm. Personally, I was very excited for this development, as I had a special idea in mind for our first crop. It wouldn't be ready for 2 seasons, so we needed something that wouldn't die in the winter. As it was getting closer to winter, there was really only one choice that could feed us and get us drunk, while still being able to grow through the cold season. That's right, you guessed it. It's rye! Yes, that hearty, spicy grain that whiskey drinkers around the world love. We could make rye bread and whiskey, and honestly, those are all we really need it for. Anyway, from there, fall started to slow down. We had to prepare for the coming cold, so we were stocking up on food and firewood, and I eventually moved into a bigger house. Speaking of houses, we had to build several more houses for all our new villagers and set them all to new jobs so they had things to keep them busy. Doing that, we managed to make sure that we had a steady supply of food and firewood coming in, even without Joe and I having to do anything. Which meant that I could focus all my efforts on building up the town. I was desperately trying to get us to town status, but unfortunately, that is apparently a much bigger task than I anticipated, which, in hindsight, makes a lot of sense. Joe got bored with the building for a while, so I stayed at town and did that while he went out and adventured. From the sounds of it, stole everything under the sun, anything he could get his hands on, and then immediately turned around and sold it back to the people who owned it, making it quite a tidy profit. I was hoping those would end up coming back towards us, but he ended up needing it for better gear so he could bring back more resources to the camp, so it worked out in the end. I think it was about this time also that he managed to kill Pooh Bear, who was the giant bear living right next to our camp. And I think shortly after that he managed to take out Baloo too, making the entire area very safe. It was about this time I ran into our first encounter with bandits. I was outnumbered, but they weren't ready for my skills with the bow. Escaping with some minor injuries, I quickly grabbed anything I could find of value in their camp and hightailed it out of there before their friends showed up. They had some pouches of gold, a couple different tools, and most importantly, 2 big old fat pigs I could slaughter, bringing home much needed meat and fur, especially with winter coming close. Hey, I just wanted to say thank you to all of you guys for listening to my story so far. I know these nights are cold and you don't really have anywhere else to be, but still, it warms my heart to know people are listening. Anyway, where was I? Right. We're in fall, and winter's fast approaching. I did the bandits. It's hard to keep track of everything. You know how stories can get. Should probably learn to write stuff down, but who has the time anyway? Needless to say, we had a lot of work before winter hit to make sure there was enough food and firewood and water and get as many people into our village as possible to help keep all of that happening. So that's pretty much what I focused on, was trying to gather people, gather resources, and bunker down. Because everyone knows winter's no joke. With all my building and putting my funds into the camp, I hadn't really taken time to grab any warm clothes, any furs or a hood or anything like that. With winter fast approaching, I asked Joe to grab me some warm garments from the town while he was still down there. I was scrambling to make sure our farm was ready for the first frost. There was some sort of miscommunication, because I ended up completely unprepared for winter. I'm just kidding. As it turns out, alcohol is really good at keeping away the cold. Who'd have thought? And I had stored up quite a lot of alcohol, which managed to keep the biting cold away for the most part, which was good because we had prepared so well for winter that we had almost nothing to do. So we decided to work on the one part of our lives that we'd been ignoring, finding a partner. So for me, I spent most of the winter season wooing Niradka, whom I chose because I could actually pronounce her name. After many, many back and forth daily trips to Piastovia, I finally convinced Niradka to marry me. We actually ended up having quite a nice little ceremony, attended by a few of the villagers from the surrounding area, and for some reason that priest who is super important. Not sure why. Once we had returned to Piastovia, our wedding present from Joe was to get pelted by snowballs. He insists they don't hurt you, but I think otherwise. Well, damn. I guess he was right. By then we had tired of winter, so we decided to hibernate, all the way until spring, where we were rewarded with taxes. Yes, a new adventure for next time. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and check out our other videos. I'll see you next time.